It's hard to believe that we're nearing 100 days of school in light of everything that's been going on in our home, in our world, in our culture. But I'm grateful that I can say that we have made it this far and that we've made accomplishments in spite of everything that's going on. And I don't attribute that to anything that I've done. I really do attribute that to the structure and the way that we homeschool and the way my kids have taught me about what works best for them. So this is typically the time that I do a mid-year review because it helps me to reflect on our process, what we've used, what we've kind of put to the side, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And so I'm just bringing you into this process. If you are new here, I'm Z. I homeschool 3 and I share lessons in faith, family, and fulfillment. Hope that by sharing my lessons, it helps you to embrace your own. So today I'm going to just let you see where we are, what are the things that we've done this year and what we're moving forward in. It's worth noting that I homeschool using the one-room schoolhouse model, that although I have a 3, a 6, and an 8-year-old, I don't school them based on grade. I school them based on tools and what is needed for each individual child by laying out it all for them and seeing where they fall. And so it's also worth noting that sometimes you can watch things about curriculum and think, who in the world is buying all that? So do know that I don't purchase all of this. I have accumulated it over time, sometimes through purchase, sometimes through donations. But that anything that I share, I'm going to link it in the description box below if you are interested in it. All right, so let's dive in. Okay, so when I'm talking about anything that we're keeping or that we're throwing out, it doesn't mean it was a bad curriculum. It simply just means that it may not have worked in our rhythm and the things that we were doing, or it wasn't the time for it. So let's start with my tot. You may have seen at the beginning of the year, she asked to be starting Teach Your Child to Read, which typically I don't start with my kids until they're 4 at the minimum, even 5 years old. But she could see that her siblings were learning how to read and she wanted to do it. So we did start it out, and if you can see, this was her chart. We got all the way to lesson 47 when it became blatantly clear that it was just too much in terms of what they were asking you to read. And so if you can see, let me just try to turn to that lesson. I think this is where we left off. But if you see, this is all that she had gotten to. She was able to read all of this, and she was able to work through it and, use the phonemic awareness and her being able to recognize this kind of special code that they use to teach the kids how to read. She was flying through it and doing exceptionally well. But as we get deeper and deeper into it, it became just really clear that it just was too much for us to get through the stories, and you're supposed to read them twice before you can get to the picture and answer questions and what have you. So she actually asked me if we can wait till she's 4, and I was like, yep, we sure can, because I'm of the mindset that if it becomes too much of a challenge, I know that she can do it, but I'm not going to push her into it. I'd rather her read stories through being able to see visuals, hear stories read aloud, and just enjoy the process of being 3. Just how about that? But just so you know, we were using these stickers for her to mark it up, and so that whole process is really exciting for her, so I didn't want to let that go. So some of you may have seen when I talked about this new sticker chart system that I'm using, but I use this to still be able to track the reading because it's magnetic, and so these are reusable. If you notice on the side, there are some that are pre-made, and then there are others that you can write in, and so this set comes with both so that you have the ability to put in, ones that are unique to your children. And so my daughter is still able to kind of have like a sticker, more like a magnetic sticker system that she can still use and still feel motivated to keep learning and growing in those areas. So that is my tot. And other than that, she's drawing, she's painting, she's just engaging in fun through hands-on manipulatives and things of that nature. When it comes to our foundational curriculum, we're doing classical conversations, and we will continue to do this. It is a way for us to learn all of the core subjects through memory work and through repetition and duration and intensity. And in 10 weeks, we've studied 5 states per week. We've been able to look at the state birds, the flower for that state, interesting facts about the state, as well as use this wonderful tool of being able to have my children to scratch off. And as we go through the different states and learn different things, it has been so valuable to see it visually. And so this has been a part of our homeschool study. Can't wait till we can go back into the world and learn about continents and countries and do the same thing. So we've wrapped up our 50 states, and now we're going to be going into lakes and mountains and learn about that. We also got to do a 7-state state kind of visit where we were going through 7 states and picking up little trinkets and magnets and maps from those places, which was the experiential kind of part of what we had been learning in our homeschools. That was super cool. It was not planned, but it did happen and it was great. So this is just another element. We use song to kind of go through these studying of the states. So Augusta, Maine, Concord, New Hampshire, Boston, Massachusetts, Providence, Rhode Island. So that's just the way that it was able to stick for my children. And if you're interested in that complete song, let me know and perhaps we'll make a video about it so that you can see it. We've also been doing nature walks, and so we use this book as a reference book, and it's been great. It's something that I snagged online. It's been great just to set a purpose for our nature walks if we want to stargaze at night, or if we want to find a particular leaf or a particular tree. We've used this more as a reference guide. My kids don't always want to set a purpose for going on nature walks, but my son really likes to learn about different things in God's creation, and so we will use this book to set a purpose, and then we'll go out with their supplies and all of the things that they love to look at through their magnifying glass and compass and things. And so we will use kind of this notebook as sometimes a filler for things that they have taken in through their senses. So this is one of those that has been useful. We don't use it all the time, but each of them have their own. So sometimes when we come back from a nature walk, they'll be asked to think about what is it that you took in through your sight, through your hearing, through the 5 senses. And so these are great for like sensory. And then, like I said, they've got great little areas for you to sketch and to write in a journal entry and to work out the things that you saw, heard, smell, felt. And then you even get to talk about and rate, your experience. So we don't use them all the time. As I said, sometimes we just allow them to experience it. They can come back and present or draw about it, okay? So through our foundation curriculum, we've been studying the anatomy. So my kids are doing life-size body projects, and this has been great because I can read aloud and talk about different areas of the body. They are creating their own, and they get to cut them out, and they're pasting them on like a life-size folder. Maybe one day I'll do a vid so you can see that. It's pretty neat the way we're doing it. But each part they're building for their entire body. So it's more hands-on. And so this is a great way if you're doing anatomy. This is definitely something that we will keep in reference. Let's see, let's go to our spelling. So we are using Spelling Plus, and I added this dictation book, and I did that because I really wanted them to be able to kind of correlate and correspond to each other. My kiddos are eating this up, and in the beginning I didn't know how to use it, and it's one of those things that I'm so glad that I stuck with. And essentially what it's asking for the kids to do, you can pre-test them and give them words to see where they fall. So that's something that I did toward maybe the first couple of weeks of school, as I gave them this list and I asked them to just spell and do the best they could and did a pre-test. And if you notice kind of up close that there are numbers on the side, the number corresponds to the list. So based on the amount of numbers that they got correct in terms of their spelling pre-test, it lets me know where to begin them. And so based on, let's say if my son, I think at one point was on list 9, and so they have these sheets where essentially they are using the same method to go through spelling. The first is to point and say, so A-L-L. The second is to be able to trace the letters and say it, right? And then the third is to be able to write the word. So there's a sheet where it covers it up and the kid can write it and say it. And the fourth is to close their eyes and say it. So they go through that 4-step process with all of their words. They can also add 5 additional words, which I do with my daughter. I've noticed that the 5 is a little too much for my son. He does well with just the 15. But they can come up with their own from their list that they did on the pretest that they just want to learn, or things they've read in a book. And then they go through that through the week, and then they get a test or an assessment on it. And when I tell you, it really has helped. Those 4-step process that seems so simplistic has really helped them to be able to learn their words. And I also teach a rule for the words they're doing for that week, a way for us to remember it either through a song. And then we also use this book for them to be able to carry out words based on this list. So this word list will correspond, I think it was list 9. So let's go to that so you can see it. These were the words from list 9. And so after they have done and gone through the list, I give them sentences so they can see the word in context and still keep practicing those words. So with both of these, I am excited. I'm pleased with both of these, and I will continue to use them through the year. All right, in reading, we were doing our Abeka readers, and we will continue to do them. We just don't use them as much now because my kids are really into chapter books now. And so I use these if I want them to read aloud to me so I can assess their fluency. Also, if I'm asking them, certain questions about the particular text, and they will do certain, little activities at the end of the book. But for the most part, I will use it to hear them read aloud. And I like that because they're reading the same things. And sometimes I'll have them read together out loud to each other. And sometimes they will just follow with me and I'll hear them read just to work on things like fluency. It also gives me the opportunity to build in some skills with reading, whether it be comprehension skills or whether it be word context and decoding of words or new words or special cases with words. So I use these readers and they continue on from here. I will continue. I just do not read them as much because, like I said, they've moved on to chapter books, and this is just a set of chapter books that my daughter is into now, which is Amelia Bedelia. My son is doing Looniverse, and so she is picking out books that have a series, which I have been looking for a while, and I'm so glad she sunk her teeth in something that she loves. So we are using more so of their reading independently and allowing them to do that, and that's also a way that they earn their magnets each day. But this is my new thing that I absolutely love. It's where they can read something and we set a purpose for reading. And so when they're reading, mostly when we do read alouds, we do this. We don't necessarily do it for their independent reading. I allow their independent reading to be just that. Let them enjoy the process of just reading books. But we do use these for our read alouds, which I do read alouds often for all of my kiddos because I'm wanting to instill in them conversation and to build dialogue around why we read and analytical thinking and things of that nature. We have recently, with writing, gotten totally into doing these writing prompts every day. I'll set a timer. They will roll it and pick the one that it rolls on, and they will just write for about 20-25 minutes, sometimes longer, depending on the day, about that topic. I do not tell them to focus on anything other than writing what comes out of their head, because we will go back and use those pieces to then add in things like spelling corrections or correctly writing sentences or adding juicy verbs or things of that nature to our writing. And it allows me to go back to my spelling and say, okay, let's put in one of your words, or let's see if there's a word that you use from your spelling list. So it's a way for me to connect those things. And more than anything, the kiddos love these. They are super excited about using them. And so that's one reason why it's a tool. And I love finding tools that are effective. My 3-year-old uses it too, but she draws, okay? You guys may have seen these Bibles. I thought we would have done much more science and hands-on things with them. And really, my kids have just been loving to use it independently because there are areas that they look at and they enjoy that are different from one another. My daughter has gotten into highlighting. I think this one is hers, but she's gotten more into highlighting because they have these areas where you can find hints in the story. And so she likes going through it and finding the hints and highlighting the answers. My son is just a reader. He just wants to pull it out and during Bible study night, read on some story and tell me, about a new character, a new Bible character that he's learned about, or something that parallels to something he's read before. So I didn't use it for the purpose that I thought. We've done maybe 1 or 2 experiments, so that might be something that of interest to you. But my kids have really sank their teeth into doing these. And what I love about those two is that we use the Abeka Bible curriculum. And so we're currently learning about Joseph. And so what they like to do is to parallel their Bible lessons with reading the Bible to see if it substantiates what they've learned in the Bible lesson. And I am just loving their thoughtfulness about wanting to know and to see truth by going back to the main source of truth. And so that's something that has been helpful with these Bibles, is that they can go grab it, and as we're doing our Bible lessons, they can substantiate whether that what was written in, because sometimes with these visual stories, there are extra details that are in here. They also watch Bible stories on video, like Storybook. And so it's a way for them to look at, did the details of what was put in through visualization line up with their source text? And so, hey, how will that not help them when they're learning how to render an argument or persuasive speech and express themselves in writing, to be able to build upon different sources? So I'm loving it for that purpose. So we will continue with the hands-on Bible. Let me go to this because it deals with writing. My daughter, I thought we started the year thinking that she was going to keep going with this writing of her cursive letters. She got a little bit into it, but really we didn't do it. We just kind of put it down. Not because it's not something of value or I don't like it. It's mainly because of time. You cannot fit everything into your homeschool day. And when you find other things that are working for your kids, you kind of have to pick and choose what you're going to stay with and what you're going to maybe put to the side for a moment. But she has been doing a bit of prescript writing where she's gone through all of the alphabet, and now she's learning to write sentences in cursive. And so it's been a challenge for her, and she, performs well with different challenges. And I think that it's been something that she has enjoyed because she's now learning to read in cursive when she gets cards in the mail or when she's reading her calendar. She has a calendar that gives her a new cursive scripture. And so just seeing it in her life. And so we will continue with these again. We don't do it every day. So you can see we've only gotten so far, but I like the fact that she can continue to practice the skill itself. And all right, highlight of our homeschool year, other than our foundational curriculum and some of the things I've already told you, is by far our Singapore math. The kids have kind of graduated from the kindergarten kind of phase, and we're using these 1 books. 1A, we also have 1B, and so we're trying to finish this year, the end of this year, by getting it all done in this book. What I am really pleased about is that they give this home instructor's guide, and this guide offers so many activities and even all of the tools that you need, so you really don't have to buy anything else. You don't have to have manipulatives. You can print these out and you can tear these out or you can copy them and cut it. But all the games that are being offered, they also have the kids do mental math where they can do drills. We haven't gotten as much into this part, but I hope to do it soon, a little bit later, maybe in the year. But this is an example. So it gives you the hands-on activity, and you're using those manipulatives in the back to do it, to teach it. And then the textbook, which is here, allows us to do it together. So even my 3-year-old can enjoy this process of looking at pictures and telling a story and being able to determine what is the math that goes with that story. And because it's colorful, it's picture, it's inviting, it's engaging. So this is the textbook we use to do it together. I often use this to reinforce whatever we've done here. So these activities correlate with this textbook, and then you go to doing it independently in a workbook. So I love that they give you so many ideas, games that you can do to reinforce it. It also lets me differentiate my children. So if I see there's an area they need more practice, I can pull out this textbook and we can work together on more one-on-one hands-on, a more one-on-one practice, because when they do these books, then they do them on their own. So they're finding their mathematical equations and they're doing the practice on their own. So this book is going to be my assessment. This will be what I put aside with their records to really show that they understood the concept. So as a complete collection, man, I can't say enough about how pleased I am with the Singapore math at this level, and I'm looking forward to continuing with this. Pretty much everything. The only thing I didn't talk about was that we're doing Abeka only for the purpose of reinforcing our reading here. So these go with this. It lets you know how to follow the guide. So it is instructional. This was donated, and so I'm gonna use what I've been given. And I've covered pretty much everything that we're using. I don't think that there's really anything that we will throw away completely. I think there are things that we're gonna focus our attention on now because they have a purpose for now, but they might not necessarily be something that we're doing all the time. And so if I gave any, advice and lessons that I'm learning, is that you find your rhythm and you flow within that rhythm, and be okay if you don't pick up everything or do everything, because less is truly more, and you will see what your kids are gravitating toward and what they're using, what they're not using. I think that the assessments are them. They show us what they need. And so that has helped me the most in my homeschool year. I am pleased to say that while it has been been challenging given everything that's going on, it is still doable because we have found our rhythm. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, I hope you will let me know in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what week you're on in your homeschool journey. If you're nearing the end or close to the 100 days, if you've already passed it, let me know. I'd love to know where everybody is. And of course, if you have any questions about anything that we've discussed, I'd love to hear about that too. All right, you guys have an awesome day. Be blessed. Mommy motivation.